This is John T for the Boxing Voice. I'm delighted today to be joined by Frank Smith from Matchroom Boxing. How are you, Frank?
Yeah, very well, thank you, mate. Happy New Year. How you doing?
Yeah, Happy New Year to you. It feels like a while ago now. I'm all right. I'm just stuck at home, probably like you. You're working from home mainly at the moment?
Yeah, lots at home, lots of time at home. Mrs is getting used to knowing me and seeing me, something she's not used to. So, yeah, it's different times, but looking forward to getting back to it, back to the shows as well. Lots coming up, lots of exciting nights coming up, and a big year for us.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to talk about, to be fair. I'm sure you've been as busy as anyone, even though the country has been in lockdown. So the great news is first that obviously we've been able to get boxing up and running. So Robert Smith announced that from February we're back up, and you guys were first on it, getting some shows announced. I'm going to come on to those shows in a bit, if that's all right, Frank. But I'm going to ask probably the most important question first. The whole boxing world is sort of like waiting with bated breath for you guys to announce the biggest fight in British boxing history, which would be Joshua Fury. How are negotiations going on?
Yeah, no, all going in the right direction. Still work to be done, but I think both sides, as has been quite publicly spoken about, both sides want this to happen. And yeah, we're in a good place between the two of us, hoping contracts are signed soon, and then we go out and really do the real work and try and work on a site, the broadcaster situation, etc. So I'm very confident that that fight happens this year. I'd say I'm 90%, 99%.
99%. Okay, I like
99%.
So when maybe, and I know I don't want to push you for dates. I know it's hard for you to commit to certain stuff. When do you think we might know that it's confirmed and a date and a venue for that?
I think, look, we're all working as fast as we can. As I say, both sides want the fight to happen. I'd like to think by the end of February, we hopefully can get something in place. You know, we live in a different world, as we all know, where things are changing daily in a number of different countries. So we're going to work through the process now of trying to find the site for that event. And as I say, hopefully by end of February, everything will be in place and we'll be able to give people some news. But like I say, we are all aligned on our vision to make this happen.
Could it be that it's going to be abroad? I think most fans and myself were thinking that that probably will be the case. But could the delay be that maybe we're hoping that we could get it in England maybe in the summer?
Look, we'd love the fight to take place in England, of course, but you know, at the same time, it has to make sense for both of the fighters. Being quite honest, I don't see us getting 100,000 people in the stadium anytime this year, let alone by the summer. So I do think it's unlikely it'll be in the UK, but still, like I say, it's not done yet, so still work to be done, and let's wait and see where that falls. But you know, we are working and speaking to a number of different territories right now.
Yeah, I did see something with Eddie recently as well, that maybe if it was abroad, the first one, that if there's a rematch clause, which I'm assuming both fighters will insist on, providing that nobody gets really hurt and it's not embarrassing either way, that a rematch maybe at the back end of the year, early part of 2022, maybe, that we could have that in the UK, or might be in the winter somewhere like Cardiff with a closed roof. Could that be a possibility?
Again, that the site for the second fight is something that will have to be discussed when that comes around. So I don't like talking up too many things, because in about a year's time, this video might come up and it's me saying, yeah, we'll get that in Cardiff, and then it ends up somewhere else. But I think there's, like I say, there's a lot of work to be done still. Yeah, but the aim is to get everything together. And then, you know, the rematch, let's see as and when that happens. You know, once AJ knocks him out in the second round, is he really going to want the rematch straight away?
I love it. Very confident that will resurface, that one as well. Hopefully,
yeah, that one definitely will.
Yeah, definite. Good stuff. Well, look, we'll move on from Joshua and Fury, talk about some of the other fighters in the upcoming cards. Before I get on the upcoming cards, Billy Joe Saunders I wanted to talk about a little bit, if that's okay. I've seen that Alvarez is been scheduled in to fight Yevgeny Aldarim in Miami in February. Billy Joe feels like he's missed that fight again, but I'm hearing noises that maybe should Alvarez come through that, maybe Cinco de Mayo, their bank holiday weekend, that Billy Joe might get the Alvarez fight once and for all.
Yeah, look, we've agreed a 2-fight deal with Canelo Alvarez. Excited to be working with him again. We had a great working with him in December. Looking forward to Feb 27 in Miami against Anthony Yildirim. And, it's definitely a fight we would like to try and make, is the Billy Joe Saunders fight for Cinco de Mayo. But let's wait and see what happens there. Billy Joe's in a position, he wants the biggest fights, and Canelo is the biggest fight out there for him. So let's see how that plays out over the next few weeks. And hopefully we can get that done.
Now, that would be amazing for the British fans and for Billy himself. I know you'd obviously would back your own man, but do you think that Billy has a really good shout at that? The reason I ask is it looks like Alvarez is probably at the peak of his powers at the moment, the best he's been. There are many people out there that would say he is the number one pound for pound, but Billy is a very slick, awkward southpaw. That style might be awkward for Canelo. How do you see that fight panning out?
Yeah, obviously, look, when Canelo fought Callum Smith in December, I thought it was the best Canelo had looked. I've been lucky enough to be at his last few fights, but I thought he was brilliant, didn't put a foot wrong. Obviously, we know with Billy Joe Saunders that when he gets in there with the best talent, that's where the best of Billy Joe really comes across. And, I do think he can cause Canelo trouble. I think that's going to be a great fight, if and when it happens. So, yeah, 100%. I think it's not a foregone conclusion when that fight's made.
Yeah, cool. Styles makes fight, as they say on that. If that does happen, we'll look forward to that one. Okay, moving on to your cards then. Well done to Matchroom. As soon as Robert Smith had said it had been announced that boxing was back, you guys had an announcement. I think it was last Friday, was it? Eddie sort of told us about all the shows and first to do that. So well done there. So I want to talk about Josh Warrington first, if that's okay. I think he's out on the first card, but news breaking last night that he's vacated his IBF belt. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. He's vacated the IBF belt, and big plans for a big fight in the summer.
What happened?
Oh, not the summer, in the next few months. Sorry.
Yeah, no. What happened with the vacating of the belt? Do we know why?
Yeah, look, he wants the big fights. He wants to fight. He wants to try and do the Kanzu fight. The IBF wouldn't approve that for unification in April, so it was a decision he made, and I think the right decision. So, I think he's obviously going to get stick from people, but he's not shying away from the biggest fights. He wants, the likes of Kanzu. He wants the likes of Gary Russell. And those fights will happen. And I think this goes to the point of the belts, that fighters aren't going to be held to a belt and a mandatory that doesn't make sense for their career. And fair play to Josh Warrington for making that move.
That's fair enough. I was speaking to one of his stablemates last night, actually, Reece Mould. He's on the undercard, actually. I was sure you're aware. And we talked about the regional support that Josh actually has. Once all this COVID dies down a bit and the vaccine's out there, I could see that Josh would be someone to go over the other side of the water, whether it be Vegas, New York, somewhere like that, and take probably quite a lot of staunch Yorkshire fans. So that will be...
Imagine 5,000 Leeds fans in Vegas.
Exactly. It feels very similar to Ricky Hatton kind of thing. And as I said, I've never had the privilege to actually watch Josh in Leeds, but when you've seen it on the TV, the support he has is immense. So I'm sure that'd be great to take them over there. Okay, moving on to a couple of other cards. Two that I'm really excited about are your welterweight. So we got Josh Kelly out first against David Avanesian. I think I've got that right. Yes. I think it's the third time it's been scheduled because of COVID, etc. So that's great that that's back on. How do you see that game? You think that that's a 50-50 fight? The bookies certainly have it 50-50. You think Josh will come through that okay?
Yeah, I think Josh Kelly's looking in unbelievable form. As you say, it is a 50-50 fight. David Avanesian, a big puncher. And it shows Josh stepped up against Ray Robinson, I know, during that fight, but he showed he was willing to step up and take real fights, and he's done that here as well. So I'm really looking forward to that one. It's been a long time coming. A lot of work's gone into making that happen. I think we first scheduled that for when was it? Sheffield was the first time when we had it planned, back in last March. Yeah. So it's going to be exciting to get that fight on. And as I say, Josh Kelly in great form, but David Avanesian is coming for the win. I actually just had a call with Neil Marsh, who's very much looking forward to the fight. Feb 20th can't come soon enough.
Excellent stuff. And staying with the welterweights, a few weeks down the line, you've then got Conor Benn back out quite quickly, obviously well supported, and probably, in my opinion, one of the most improved boxers in the last year or so as well. Not that he wasn't doing well anyway, but he just seems to be coming on every fight. Now, should he come through that fight against Vargas, I think that's your last one or one of the last ones you've got. it feels like that's a collision course for both Josh Kelly and Conor Benn. It feels like an easy fight to make anyway. Would that likely happen?
Yeah, for sure. You know, as you said, I think as you said there, Conor Benn has really come on in the last couple of years. You look back at the career he's had; he's been with us for 4 or 5 years now, and how much he's come on. The great win over Sebastian Formella really showed his talent in there. Vargas, a great opponent for him. He's someone who's wanted to fight for a long time. Yeah, and the Josh Kelly fight, 100% is a fight that can be made. Maybe not their next fights, maybe later on in the year, early part of 2022. It's definitely a fight that can be made, and it'll be a huge fight. Two young talents, you know, getting in there early on.
Styles definitely make fights on that one as well, and it's probably hard to push you for a winner on that because they're both in your stable. So I won't.
Boxing will be a winner.
So again, Matchroom, absolutely.
Boxing, not just boxing. The fans.
Yeah, 100%. It'll be a good night. Okay, so just sticking at the welterweight, not necessarily these fighters are yours as such at the moment, but the little bit of talk building up about maybe eventually Khan and Brook getting that fight on. I don't know whether you've heard anything of that, whether Eddie and yourself might be involved in any negotiations there. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I still think it's an interesting fight, 100%. Whether at this point now, is it going to get to the numbers they want it to do? You know, when we spoke about that fight in previous times, I believe that fight could have done 800,000 pay-per-view buys. It was a huge fight. I still believe it's a huge fight now, but they're not in. Neither of the guys, quite honestly, are in the same position they were when we tried to make it. You know, a year, 2, 3 years ago, we've been pushing to try and make that fight for a long time. So definitely one we're interested in. It's just whether we can get to what both guys would want from it, essentially.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I spoke to a couple of people about it recently. It probably is 4 or 5 years late, but I think it's one of those, it's better having it than not at all. There's a lot of bragging rights there to be had. So we'll look forward to see if that one comes. And one of your cards coming up, the big rematch, which for me, Povetkin White, the first fight, Dillian was doing amazing. You know, after a couple of rounds, I sat there thinking this is looking like a statement when you compare maybe how Joshua had done against Povetkin, and then obviously that big knockout came. How's Dillian's preparations coming along, and are you expecting him to win that fight this time?
Yeah, look, Dillian's a true professional. He literally has been in his camp in Portugal. He was there the whole for a long time before the first fight. He's got a great setup there, and you know, training really hard. I think he knows what he needs to do to win. Fair play to him for coming straight back in and wanting to take the rematch immediately. It's a great and right thing to do. But, you know, that's the great thing about heavyweight boxing. Dillian was winning every round. You thought, right, this is over soon. He's going to knock Povetkin out, and then bang, it all changes. So really exciting, that one. And looking forward to getting that back on. And hopefully Dillian gets a big win and some huge heavyweight fights out there for him. I really like the Deontay Wilder fight for it.
That's what I was going to ask next. Yeah, I was going to say, look, if Joshua and Fury are tied up for 2021 and a couple of fights, and I think every fan out there, certainly British fan, hopes, maybe other than Dillian, hopes that happens, that should Dillian come through against Povetkin, and hopefully he does, that the Wilder fight feels like the natural one to make. I'm sure Wilder's still got something to say. Certainly he feels so in the heavyweight division. Would that be possible to make that? Or do you think Deontay is still trying to sabotage maybe the fight between Joshua and Fury? Because I know he keeps making out that he's got a legal right to fight the rematch with Tyson.
I think that'll be a fight he'll be interested in. You know, once Joshua Fury is all done, I definitely think it's the right fight for Deontay Wilder as well. You know, it's probably, after Joshua Fury, it's probably the second biggest heavyweight fight out there. And also, you can't take away from Wilder, you know. He's gone through his career. He was this absolute animal who was knocking everyone out, and he loses one fight, and people are like, useless, finished. It's not true. He's still got a huge career ahead of him, and that's a fight for both those guys, that then the winner goes on to fight the winner of Joshua Fury.
Yeah, I agree.
The second fight.
Yeah, I agree on the Wilder bit as well. Obviously, I'm a Brit, so we follow the Brits more. But for me, Wilder was looking that explosive, and anything that got put in front of him, I think was maybe just the manner in which that he'd lost the rematch with Tyson, and then one or two stories after as to why. So I'm really looking forward for Wilder to come back, whether that's against a matchroom fighter in Dillian or whether it's someone else. I don't know, maybe an Andy Ruiz or something like that. First bit of a tune-up for him, and then see where he comes later in the year. Okay, just a couple more bits for you, Frank, if that's okay. I've seen the British Boxing Board of Control have mandated Felix Cash against Denzel Bentley. That is a really exciting fight for the fans. You know, if you look over the last year, we've talked about COVID. We haven't managed to have as many shows on. We haven't had the fans there. Some of the big names have been sitting, waiting for crowds to come back. Denzel's been out a few times. Felix has been out as well. I know a lot of fans have kind of latched onto both of those. Is that a fight that you think can happen? Bearing in mind that Felix fights for Matchroom and you guys, and then you've got Denzel fighting for Queensberry and Frank Warren.
Who knows? You know, I think Frank Warren and his team all talk a lot of the time. You know, they say they want to work with us. I think they came out and said, "Yeah, we'll do the Denzel fight with Matchroom." You know, great example is when we tried to make Conor Ben Chris Jenkins, and it was just like talking to a brick wall, no interest. So it's all well and good them publicly saying they're happy to work together on fights, and then, you know, when it suits them, from a PR stunt to come out with a load of fights. But it's if the fight goes ahead and Felix Cash that's the route he wants to go down, then I think it will go to purse bids personally, if that's the route he wants to go down.
Okay, is there a deadline for those purse bids, do you know?
Yeah, it will probably be, I think it's Feb 13th.
Okay, so we'll know a little bit more.
Or no, for Feb around that time.
Okay, it's only a couple of weeks ago. Funny you mentioned Chris Jenkins. I interviewed him. It was this week. I think it was Monday actually, and he mentioned the Conor Ben fight and that he was disappointed he didn't get that. Bless him. So yeah, moving on. So that's obviously something that could happen. I will ask while I'm on that, and I know it was Frank Warren that initially had come out and said it around Queensberry getting it on with Matchroom. It kind of feels, and this is just my opinion, Frank, at the moment, going back to what I said a minute ago around lack of big fights, lack of crowds, etc., because of what's happening. If Matchroom fought Queensberry's elite fighters against elite fighters, it may well be that maybe we could justify a few more pay-per-view events and make some money for the fighters and some big undercards still. Is that a possibility? Because I know Eddie had come out and said, you know what, yeah, we'll do it. Frank has said we'd do it. And from a fan point of view, when we look at the top on the Queensberry list and the top on the Matchroom, if those fights happened, it would be like, wow, the best thing ever.
Yeah, look, I don't want to be negative with it, but again, I think it's all well and good to put together a poster with 7-8 fights on that makes sense for Frank Warren. And, you know, of course, Daniel Dubois, Dillian White, that fight would have made sense for Frank Warren, because where else, you know, Dillian White is on another level, not, you know, I think as a fighter, but also commercially. So we will always do what is best for our fighters. That is our job. And for the sport of boxing, we want to keep building the sport of boxing. So if it makes sense, then yeah, we'll do it. We'll work on it. We'll work towards it. But I don't think we need Frank Warren and his fighters to do what you've suggested. You know, we can make other fights. So, you know, we as I say, our job is always to do the best for our fighters and for the sport of boxing and to grow the sport of boxing. And that's what we will continue to do and have done for the last 8, 10, 12 years. So, you know, conversation will always be there. Maybe not a lunch between the two, because I think that never happened. And then Frank got angry again and doesn't want to see him now.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, look, before I let you go, just one last bit. I caught up with Kevin Rooney Jr. recently, which was a real privilege. You know, for the fans who aren't aware, although they probably see him on the site, he looks after your American stable. It seems like you're getting more and more fighters over there, and things are going great with Matchroom USA. Any fighters that you want to mention that are sort of like up and coming? I interviewed Austin Williams recently. He seems really good.
Yeah, we got. Sorry, my phone rang.
No worries.
It's on my phone. So, yeah, look, we got a great schedule coming up in the US as well. Feb 27 with Canelo. We've got March 13, the huge Estrada Chocolatito. You know, that after all those years. I can't remember how many years ago the first one was, the last one. So yeah, great schedule in the US, as you say. Great talents coming through. Mark Castro, a guy we signed recently. You got Amo Williams, who you mentioned, Diego Pacheco, Alexis Espino, Nikita Ababi. Sorry if I forget anyone in this. We signed so many fighters, but some great talents, and it's an exciting period because they're all getting to that stage of their career where they've had their learning fights. Maybe not Mark Castro, who's just had his debut recently, but they've had their learning fights, a lot of them, and now they're really stepping up. And I think they've all got great futures ahead of them.
You're definitely going to give Amo Williams a shout out. I like his character as well, not just what he's doing, but had a good chat with him when I spoke to him recently. Well, thanks so much for taking the time with us, Frank. I really appreciate it because I know how busy you are, and hopefully we'll catch up with you soon in and around when these fights are on.
No worries at all, mate. And it's good to have a chat, and thanks for the continued support.
No worries. All the best, mate. Cheers.
Yo, if you enjoyed the video, feel free to hit the like, subscribe, and share. As always, if you want to support us to the next level, head over to the patreon.com/ThaBoxingVoice. We have tons of exclusive from Border Wars, Entitled, betting shows. The list goes on and on and on. But in addition to that, if you guys have questions for fighters, trainers, and promoters, this is where you can submit them. We will run out, get these questions answered, and put it back on the show just for you guys. Appreciate it. Peace.